Alaikum salam to you and all the listeners out there. Alhamdulillah. It's a beautiful evening, although it's winter.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Just to introduce Ibrahim, Ibrahim founded the Refocus and Upliftment Foundation, R.A.U.F, aiming to revolutionize addiction treatment. Starting from humble beginnings, R.A.U.F now operates 3 inpatient facilities across KZN, boasting a remarkable 75% success rate. Ibrahim's holistic approach emphasizes physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual healing, supported by family involvement and post-recovery care. Beyond rehabilitation, R.A.U.F fosters nationwide support groups, awareness campaigns, and community outreach efforts. Ibrahim's commitment to social welfare is evident in the R.A.U.F feeding scheme, delivering thousands of meals monthly to impoverished communities. Ebrahim Dawood's legacy epitomizes the transformative power of compassion and dedication in building healthier lifestyles. Now, the Ibrahim CV goes on and on, but time doesn't permit. Ibrahim, I've already taken a few minutes of your time, but Jazakallah khair for joining me on the program. Now, as I said, Ibrahim, the topic for discussion is the new drug addiction scene. Now, in discussing this, I did say that, you've established R.A.U.F and it's a rehab facility. Now, there are plenty of rehab facilities around. What makes R.A.U.F different?
Okay. The very fact that if you look at the success rate in addiction, it's 0 to 2%. And well, there's different stats. They vary up to maybe 5% maximum. Now, imagine you're putting all the effort, you're running a program where you're charging huge amounts of money, and sometimes you're doing it for the pleasure of Allah, but your success rate is 0 to 2%. So that is why we have to think outside the box and formulate or come up with a program where we create a bigger success rate. And that's how we started right from the beginning. We've changed the entire approach. Everybody puts emphasis on the person that has an addiction problem. Everybody wants to put the person that's addicted in order and get him right. But not realizing if you don't stop the enabler, if you don't close the main, you never fix the leak.
Absolutely.
So if you don't stop the money flow and stop and empower the family, you're wasting your time. So that's what makes it different. We would ensure that the family is fully participating in any of our programs before we take the person in. And the family will be empowered, will be taught how to deal with the person that has an addiction problem. And R.A.U.F teaches whilst the person that has a drug problem is taught how to deal with the addiction. So the family is first empowered before we take anybody in, and that's the difference. Normally, you would pay an amount, put them in, like you go to a laundromat, put them in there, take them out, brand new, sort it out. Doesn't work like that with us.
Until it gets dirty again.
You got to empower the family first so that he is returning back to your home. You need to find all the reasons that created the problem and fix that up before you or whilst you're getting him out.
Alhamdulillah, absolutely. It's an excellent approach, undoubtedly. Just to remind our listeners that this is an interactive program. If you have any questions for Brother Ebrahim Dawood from R.A.U.F on drug addiction, then you may send us a WhatsApp on 060 904 1056. I repeat, 060 904 1056. Now, Brother Ebrahim, how serious is the drug problem in South Africa and why? What is your view on why, if it's severe, why it's so severe?
I was sitting in a workshop about maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I've heard a presentation, I think it was done by Gary Lewis. He was a United Nations substance abuse advisor in the sub-Saharan Africa. And he had mentioned that in South Africa, in particular, the problem escalated after the border controls have changed, where they had the army prior to our new democracy, and there was very strict controls, and now with the SAPS and not being empowered to deal with the problem, that's one of the main contributing factors. And of course, from when cell phones came in, people started to cultivate an addictive personality, and that's what created the problem internationally. So it's about the same time, more or less. Cell phones came about the same time, our democracy. So these are all the contributing factors to where we are right now. Prior to that, if you look back, prior to 94, Mandrax, Dacha, alcohol. After that, everything got into the country.
How serious and how severe is the problem?
It's a pandemic. It is a pandemic. In South Africa, we're sitting in South Africa with 15%. If from the stats that we are getting, 15% of our population, out of a population of what, 60 million, about
60.
10 million.
Yeah.
10 million people that are on drugs. That tells you how bad it is. It's actually a pandemic. It has, if your crime rate is between 60 to 80% drug related, what does it tell you? Which community has not been affected with substance abuse?
Yeah.
Which home hasn't been affected?
Absolutely.
Which family hasn't been affected? So it's right across the board. It's serious.
And what about our youth? Is R.A.U.F doing anything for our children? And if so, what types of prevention programs do you run?
When we started R.A.U.F, we wanted a holistic program. We wanted something that will give you A to Z. In other words, a holistic, it covers everything. Everybody talks about rehabilitating that person that had a drug problem. At R.A.U.F, we have various youth programs. We have youth programs where, I was sitting in a function and there was about 100 pastors or preachers from different churches in KZN. And this very one young pastor came to me. She was a female. She's from one of the areas in Inanda, and she came to me and she asked me, "Are you Ebrahim?" I said, "Yes." After this presentation, it was some workshop we were looking at doing a joint drug program. And I remember she asked me, "Are you from R.A.U.F?" I said, "Yes." "Are you Ebrahim?" "Yes." And she said, she asked, "What are you doing?" It's remarkable. So I asked her, "What happened?" She said, "Some of your youth have come to our church and have done awareness programs in our schools, in our churches.
Okay.
So we are training youth through our youth programs, empowering youth. We have workshops where we keep them for the entire weekend. We empower them, we train them, we send them back into the communities. Then we go into all the schools. We are open to all schools. We are open to all platforms. We go on all platforms educating the youth. And, we say, a lot of us say, but they're too young. I mean, on the South Coast, we're picking up children that are as young as 9 years old that are on drugs.
Wow.
So it's frightening. And the younger you get them, our aim is to get to them as young as possible so that they are empowered. I mean, you talk to a child that's 9, 10, 11 years old, they know everything about drugs because they may be coming from homes where they haven't been had exposure. But you go to school and you're meeting children from all. There was a case of a 10-year-old or something that selling drugs in the school.
Allah Akbar.
So this is how bad it is. Yes. So we are proactively, simultaneously working on the youth and empowering the youth to do something, to empower them so that, look, it's ignorance. Children don't know. They walk in the experimental and next thing they're gone. It starts off experimenting. So if you get them before they're experimenting, you've done something.
And they get influenced as well.
They're young.
They're young. And especially the youth, the children who come from good homes, who carry a lot of money with them, because these are the guys who are targeted.
Exactly.
Yeah. In fact, I know it is a huge problem. Many schools
it's a very, very. I'm yet to find a school that doesn't have a problem.
Yes, absolutely.
It's quite serious. And we've been to, we go to a lot of schools. We do maybe 50, 100, sometimes in a year. Sometimes we don't go. And of course, schools must also join us and give us the time, give us the space so we can get in and do our awarenesses. And I'm telling you, this is one of the things that we need to look at very seriously. And parents also need to educate themselves.
Yeah.
Talk to your children about addiction.
I think it is absolutely vital.
100%.
They are educated from a very young age. They need to know, and they need to be given that magic thing. Don't take that first hit.
Exactly.
Don't try it. Because that's the one that's going to be absolutely problematic.
Exactly.
And I think that needs to be drummed into their heads.
And a child will appreciate a parent that's empowered and sharing information with the child, rather than a parent who's not disempowered, ignorant about the problem and just pretending like there's no problem, only to find out the child has tried it out now and has got it, and now you have to go and read about it. So we are saying we need to up our game as parents. We need to individually, collectively, as a community, as individuals, let's start. When COVID, I always talk about COVID. Look at this COVID thing. When it came about, within a matter of hours, everybody was educated. They knew how to do social distancing,
yeah.
using of mask and a whole lot of things were put in place like overnight. If we did half of that for drugs, I think we would have gone somewhere by now.
Absolutely. What happens unless you're affected? Then it doesn't seem to bother you.
Unfortunately.
So, prevention is better than cure.
Exactly.
And I'm sure, Ebrahim, you must have experienced a situation where we have tons of denial. Families and
that's the number one problem.
Even schools are in denial.
That's the number one problem.
Here.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's where the issues come in.
Schools will sweep it under the carpet. They will sweep it under the carpet because they don't want to lose their numbers for the next year. And some of them, they don't want the word to get out because it's a reputation. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and schools are, they're sweeping under. In many instances, they are doing that, and it's not a good thing because what we're doing is we're sweeping. And I know of a case where this youngster was caught with 70,000 rand worth crack cocaine in his pocket. Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So and it's being sold. It's being sold in the schools. So we need to educate I don't know, what is it amongst us or us as parents that we don't seem to understand that your child is walking into a mixed environment from a home that you had him protected. And what precautions have we done to prevent the child from getting into this the thing of substance abuse?
To remind our listeners, our WhatsApp number is 060-904-1056. If you have any questions related to drug abuse, addiction to drug, etc., you can forward the questions to us via WhatsApp. Brother Ebrahim Dawood from R.A.U.F will attempt to answer those questions. Ebrahim, if somebody needs help and comes to R.A.U.F, how would you get them into the program? I mean, how do you assist someone who walks through your door seeking help?
Okay, we must understand R.A.U.F is not a private entity. It's an organization. It was started because there was a huge need. When we were involved with SANZAF many years ago, and we saw that when it came to any form of assistance as a Muslim community, alhamdulillah, we are okay. When it came to drug substance abuse, we were really stuck. And that's how R.A.U.F came about. So our approach, if somebody has to come to us for help, is we would immediately, there are 18 support groups throughout the country. Johannesburg, Cape Town, PE, we will link up with FAD and in KZN. We would get them, or if they're in a place where there isn't a support group, they will have to zoom into our program, an introduction program, where we will educate. Look, the programs are long. The stages into addiction and the stages in recovery. They go through different phases.
Right.
And you got to take them you got to complete the cycle before they go back to the home so that they are fully recovered. Not fully, but fully empowered.
Okay.
The thing is, we would first educate the family, explain to them the seriousness of the problem and how our approach is educate the family whilst you're talking to the family on a weekly basis. Then we will put them into a weekly program. Simultaneously, we would observe, do regular testing. If that individual is not coping and he needs more intervention, we'll put him into a weekend program. And if we feel that that's not working, then we will take him in for up to a year.
Okay. We're going to take an ad break at this stage. Okay. We'll continue after this, inshallah.
This dua brought to you by Simplex Radio, South Africa's leading retailer of appliances, car sound and home theater systems.
Get ready for the biggest dinosaur experience this holiday. The Jurassic Museum opens at Saxony Westwood Mall Friday the 28th of June to Sunday the 30th of June from 9:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. with over 40 dinosaurs on display. It's a blast for the kids and an experience for the adults with live crocs, reptiles and giant lizards too. Enjoy shopping and delicious food. Mark your calendars 28th to the 30th of June at Saxony Westwood Mall. Call 082-757-3535.
For all your Umrah attire, Zamzam water, fresh stock of dates at a ridiculously low price is now available at the Al Ansar Book and Media Shop at 207 West Road, Overport.
The Outreach Slice of Life campaign. Since its inception, our Slice of Life has touched the lives of countless individuals through our distribution to schools, old age homes, orphanages, and deserving families within our community. This initiative has been instrumental in alleviating hunger. For only 9 rand a loaf, you will be providing a family with their daily staple, bread. Donate now on www.alansar.org.za or call Outreach on 031 208 1601.
The chaos and destruction in the Gaza Strip is beyond comprehension. Virtually everyone is displaced, hungry, and in urgent need of life-saving humanitarian support. The Al-Imdad Foundation has been working tirelessly to address the health, nutrition, and water needs of the population. Our hospital, water deliveries, and hot meal programs are made possible with your support. Your donation, big or small, is a lifeline for those in dire need. Help Gaza survive. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
The Al Ansar Foundation, Da'wah, Tarbiyah, and Education. Establishing the foundations of Islamic civilization in South Africa.
You're listening to Medical Files, brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa and hosted by myself, Faisal M.J. Suleiman. Our topic for discussion is the new drug addiction scene. Our esteemed guest this evening is Brother Ebrahim Dawood from R.A.U.F, and this is an interactive program. For your questions via WhatsApp 060-904-1056. Just to remind our listeners that doctors, guests, etc. on the Medical Files program will help you with any medical problems you pose by giving you advice on air. However, they do not have your full medical history, have not examined you, so please verify the advice given to you on air with your regular doctor who knows your medical history, allergies, etc. Neither the doctors nor the relevant radio station, nor the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa will take any responsibility for any adverse reaction caused by the advice given on Medical Files. Now, Brother Ebrahim Dawood, you were talking to us, about the way you guys operate. If I walked into your rehabilitation center, how you will deal with me. You did mention that, you're going to get families together, get families involved before you take the patient in. You want to take it from there?
Yes, the family will be put into an introduction program. That will be maybe a 3-month program, or depends on the family and how they're coping. Then, whilst the recovery is getting all the counseling that he needs to assist him and preparing for a long program, the family will then, when the family goes into the next phase, the program where they understand how to deal with addiction, they will go into another program where they'll be given all the tools to deal with addiction. That's when the recovery is taken in. But it varies from person to person. It's not a fixed way of doing it. That's the normal way. But there have been cases where, because of the seriousness of the cases, and some families come there empowered. They know what to do. They do all the right things. They know how to apply tough love. Those cases, we fast track it and we take them in. So it depends from person to person. But generally, every family has to be educated on how to deal with a drug addict, a substance abuser, before they even walk into our program. Because if it's a long program, some of them don't have the patience to stay long enough and they abscond. Families need to know what to do when that happens. Because when that happens and the family don't bring them back after we take them, we can only revisit that case after 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Because there's so many people waiting to get into the program.
Oh, so you have like a 5-year waiting list, you see?
Exactly.
Okay.
If you abscond and don't come back immediately, then we would close it for 5 years.
Okay, there's a question that's come through. To rehabilitate a drug addict and change his behavior, is it a psychological problem, deep-rooted, that needs to be addressed? Or is it managing behavior for the rest of the drug addict's life? Okay, that's the first question from the same listener. The second question, does change only happen when the drug addict is ready to change and wants the help, or does the drugs overtake the drug addict's life that they won't be able to make the choice? You got it.
Yes. Okay. Basically, what's the first question?
First question was, is it a psychological problem that is deep-rooted that needs to be addressed, or is it managing behavior for the rest of the drug addict's life? That's the first question.
Look, addiction is something that happens. There's 4 stages, basically, experimentation, socializing, regular, and then full-blown addiction. There is no particular reason why somebody would take drugs, but generally, it is a habit. you cultivate a habit and you develop a relationship with the drug. And that's what, like the Quran tells us in Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 91. Satan's plan is to create enmity and hatred between you with intoxicants and gambling. That's full stop. So where is it coming from? That's the source. And the Quran tells us we cannot dispute it. But if you look at it, yes, it has got something with psychology, because it numbs you, it dumbs you. You're numbed in a numb state. It impacts negatively on your personal growth. It impacts on your emotional intelligence. And it really, you cultivate to become a drug addict. You cultivate addiction, the personality of a drug addict. So likewise, recovery, you got to cultivate how to function or use your good senses and suppress your emotional imbalances.
Okay. So it is not a deep-rooted psychological problem that turns you towards drugs. It's not something from the past, you've had issues, that's not causing it.
It can be sometimes an underlying problem. Sometimes you'll find people, I know they've come there with some issues, and only to find that when you fix it up, it actually helps.
Okay.
With the counting, and we eventually would get to that. And sometimes to the deep-rooted psychological issues, sometimes only comes out. We only pick up the problem 1 or 2 years or 3 years into his recovery, because you see now he's going through a dry relapse. On investigation, there's a problem.
Okay. So the second question is, does change only happen when the drug addict is ready to change and wants the help, or does the drugs overtake the drug addict's life that they won't be able to make the choice?
Well, if the drug takes over the person's life, then obviously he doesn't want change. But
I think the listener is referring to, if I'm on drugs, you give me a drug to counteract that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Harm reduction. You use one for the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope I'm reading it correctly.
Yeah. But basically, change is something. How you cultivate the personality of being an addict. You cultivate the personality of being sober. Remember, in addiction, the general thing with us is our good senses prevail. We use our common sense. Now, we may be, from an IQ point of view, very intelligent people, but from an emotional intelligence point of view, we are very weak. And what is emotional intelligence? Not awareness, not aware of yourself, and not knowing how to manage yourself. So basically, in addiction, they're not aware. They may be aware, but not enough of the seriousness of the problem. That's why when you talk to them, they can't even listen to you, and they don't listen to good advice. And also, because they're not aware of what they're doing, or fully aware, they don't know how to manage. And when in addiction, when they go through good times, bad times, bored, when they don't know, got nothing to do, the drug has become the crutch. Now, if you take the crutch away, which is drug, you got to cultivate that person's mindset to think like a norm, and teach him how to use his common sense. In other words, cultivate emotional intelligence.
Now, when you talk of drugs, we immediately think of narcotics. But then we also, need to understand there is abuse of medication.
That's a very big problem.
Over-the-counter medication, also psychiatric medication.
Very big problem.
Now, let's discuss abuse of psychiatric medication, and how does the abuse of psych meds compare to narcotics abuse?
We've had people that were arrested in possession of cocaine or heroin.
Yeah.
And when they go to court, the case is thrown out because the way this heroin was watered down, to bulk it up and sell more, the heroin content is so low, they can hardly pick it up in the lab test, and they throw the case out. Or the cocaine content is so low, they throw the case out because the content, the merchants will water it down to get more.
Yes.
And in many cases, I've seen a lot of them, the case thrown out because there wasn't no evidence. Now, when it comes to your narcotics, your medication, you'll find that these are made in laboratories to certain specifications with certain tolerance. It's made at it's constantly made as per a certain tolerance or a certain way of, whatever the specs are.
Yeah.
So these medications are more dangerous because I've seen still pain withdrawals that was worse than heroin.
Okay.
I've seen people that are on narcotics. In fact, the withdrawals on psych meds, and then you find somebody that's on psych meds that's given the meds and he's taking it himself. Okay. And what happens? So if he's not feeling too good, he'll take a few extra because he's giving him a buzz. You take a few extra and you take a few more and a few more. They brought a lady to us that took 35 tablets.
What?
Xanax, 35. She's given a script to take X amount and she takes 35. She comes and she's falling all over the place. She was needed to go to hospital, but this is what happens. Psych med abuse. If we say that if there's medication given to somebody for any psychiatric or any reason, especially pain medication, we must ensure that somebody needs to supervise that medication because that can lead to abuse and an overdose.
Thank you, Ibrahim. 060-904-1056. If you have any questions for Brother Ebrahim Dawood from R.A.U.F, then please forward them to us via WhatsApp 060-904-1056. Now, Ibrahim, what are the current trends among the youth regarding drug abuse? I mean, what are the drugs that are currently circulating among the youth?
Parents would come to us and say, my son, he doesn't take drugs. He's at home. He doesn't do anything. But I don't know why he's got a behavior problem. Now, if, I was chatting to a youngster a few days ago, about a week ago, I asked him, what were you taking? He said, I was just putting something into the cool drink. Everybody knew I was having a sip, but there was something else in there. And you'll be shocked to see what they're putting in. You can get a high very easily these days. There's so many different tablets around that you can take. There's a thing called lean. They put one or two things into it, and a 2 liter, and they're high for about a week. Whoa. So, and it's become a big problem in our schools. The other thing is that this energy drinks, they're spiking energy drinks. That's becoming a problem. The other thing is Xanax. Xanax is the single biggest challenge we're sitting amongst the youth. And it's cheap, 3 rand, 4 rand, 5 rand. You get it all over, they're popping it like Smarties. So Xanax has become a huge problem.
Available just over the counter? Or
it's coming through the back door. You can get over the counter. You can get it. I'm sure there must be a script to get it, but it's available. They're manufacturing it even locally. You can get it. So it's become a huge problem, Xanax.
And from your experience, do parents know the seriousness of the problem that this thing can cause?
Well, that's why we're going on all these platforms. A lot of parents, they don't want to hear what I'm saying. When it comes to drugs, it'll never be my child. It'll never be my child. We've had people that brought in, their staff or whoever into for a test, only to be told that, let's test your son because we know he's also a known drug addict. And the parent gets a shock. So we always have this mentality, it's not my child, it's somebody else's. But it could be happening in your house for years without you even knowing it.
Exactly.
Until it gets too late.
Now, just before we take the break, we've got about a minute. What are some of the symptoms that the child will display if he is on drugs? I mean, what should some parents look out for?
Look, there's drop in grades, unhygienic, unexplained disappearance, the things getting stolen from the home, regular, get sick, weak, immunity. And red eyes, depends what you're taking. Slurred speech, not sleeping properly, oversleeping, agitated, get very agitated, restlessness. These are some of the symptoms or the signs that you should look for.
Thank you, Ibrahim. We'll take the break, and on the other side of the break, we'll continue the program. And before we take the break, if you have any questions for Ebrahim Dawood from R.A.U.F, 060-904-1056.
Are you or a loved one battling the disease of addiction? Is your family, life, relationships, work suffering due to alcoholism and substance abuse? Zensai Treatment Recovery and Wellness Center are addiction specialists offering specialized psychotherapy and naltrexone therapy to help overcome addiction. Zensai offers hotel-style facilities to allow your loved ones to regain their dignity and overcome alcoholism and drug abuse in the most comfortable setting possible. Fight addiction. Call Zensai Treatment Recovery and Wellness Center, the addiction recovery specialist, on 031-563-0751.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and Freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031-208-9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
The Watch Doctor. For watch repairs, watch batteries, watch straps, 21st keys, engraving, and sound for your occasion. Handled professionally at 263 Sparks Road, Mohammedia Center, Suite 104, Overport, next to the Sparks Road Masjid. Contact Zain on 082 542 3070. The Watch Doctor. The Watch Doctor. Keeping time every time.
In order to streamline our operations and ensure your donations reach those in need swiftly and efficiently, the Al-Ansar Relief and Welfare has updated banking details for the Lillah and Sadaqah contributions. Bank FNB. Account name Outreach Al-Ansar. Account type check account. Account number 631-0020-3081. Branch Florida Road. Your generosity fuels our mission to uplift communities, provide essential aid, and offer hope to those facing adversity. With these new banking details, your donations will continue to make a profound impact on the lives of countless individuals in need. Jazakallah for your continued support, and together we can create positive change and spread compassion far and wide.
Education, health, dignity, empowerment. These wishes all begin with water. Africa Muslims Agency is committed to providing clean water to the thousands who still live without this basic human right. Support us in giving the best of charities. Provide a water well for 16,500 Rand or a borehole for 55,000 Rand in Afghanistan or 65,000 Rand in Africa. Gain Thawabi Jariyah and help communities to reach their full potential. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
The Al-Ansar Foundation, Da'wah, Tarbiyah and Education, establishing the foundations of Islamic civilization in South Africa.
You're listening to Medical Files on brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa and hosted by myself, Faisal M.J. Suleiman. And our guest this evening is Brother Ebrahim Dawood, and he is from R.A.U.F. And our topic for discussion is the new drug addiction scene. This is an interactive program. So you have any questions, you may forward them to us via WhatsApp on 060-904-1056. Now, Ebrahim, based on your experience with R.A.U.F., and with all the cases, etc., we've been through, how severe is the drug problem?
Faisal, you go to our support group on a Friday night in Spence Road, and then you'll see, it's very serious. Unfortunately, a lot of families, they are so deep in denial. They rather live with the problem than sorting it out.
Mm-hmm.
They're so concerned about what the other people are going to say, and in the event end up losing their loved one. And we've seen those cases. The problem, to have 15% of your population and 12 to 15% of our youth, what does it tell us? It's a serious problem.
Mm-hmm.
60 to 80% of our crime is drug related. So it's, we've had a case recently where the mother and the daughter were in it together.
Is it?
We've had another case where the mother and the two sons were in it together. Fathers and sons.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the family. It has become a huge problem. But there's one more thing that I want to talk about amongst the youth, and that's the vape.
Mm-hmm.
This vape thing has become a big thing. Everybody's going for it. Whilst it may be acceptable to some, we need to understand some of the ingredients that go into that.
Mm-hmm.
There is an addiction problem with that as well.
Yes, in fact, many people don't.
Some of the
accept
ingredients that they're using, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Okay, question has come through. Does microdosing magic mushrooms help with mental health and can aid in drug addiction rehabilitation as its benefits claim to rewire or reset the brain function seems to be used by psychiatrists in mental health and drug use treatment? You know of this micromagic?
Look, we don't. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you. But all I can tell you is we don't use any of those.
Okay.
You come. In fact, we've seen people that were put on psych meds, and through our psychiatrists, we had to taper it down because the person, we've dealt with the addiction problem, and in many cases, work on the mindset, and we had to taper the meds down. So I don't know if they are using it, but we know that it's an alternative treatment. In other words, using one substance to treat another substance, it's like a replacement therapy. You're using one thing to stop another thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that's going to work, but with us, there's no replacement therapy. You stop it, if you do your detox, you come back, no substance at all, and you have to learn how to work on your mindset, your psychology.
You did say that you have a very good success rate. Now, how do you deal? How do your patients deal with this withdrawal? Of course, there must be some very serious withdrawal symptoms that they display. How do you deal with it?
What I'm going to say now may come as a surprise to many. We've had a gentleman that we took off the street, and he was going through withdrawals, and we were monitoring this guy whether he needed to go in for a detox or whatever. And it so happened that evening there was a zikr program at our center. I've seen this guy's withdrawals disappear.
Okay.
He was shaking.
The power of zikr,
it changes your entire focus. I've seen cases where they were withdrawing, and just by working on their, stimulating their minds and talking to them, and they go through it. So, however, if there are withdrawals, you see, they shouldn't be coming to us with any type of withdrawals, because we would attend to that through our outpatient, where they will get the treatment or whatever they need, or if they choose to go cold turkey, they do all that home and they come to us, they off it. But if they sometimes would come, sometimes from Cape Town or Johannesburg, they'll get a joint or they'll go for a hit in the bus, or they'll get off here, then they're high. Then we have to now monitor them and see if there's a need for them to be put into a detox program before we take them in.
What is the way forward? I mean, how do you anticipate overcoming or eliminating the drug problem? What is your approach to dealing with it?
Unfortunately, I think with our mindset that we currently, have, it's not going to get any better. And I think if we don't start becoming proactive as parents, stop blaming others for your child's addiction, and accept that in some way or the other you are responsible for that. I think as parents, the most powerful weapon is awareness, education, empowerment. And the reason why it got so progressive in this country is because after 94, prior to 94, South Africa was a conduit. Now it's a haven and a conduit. There's something like 450 huge syndicates operating in the country. So the problem is big. The education and awareness is almost nil. So what happens? They're all just being fed into this life of misery innocently. So we are saying awareness, education. And parents should learn how to discuss and talk about this to their children. Every parent should give their child that quality time. They would come to us, the brand new BMW with a whole lot of fancy goodies. They come, I've given my son everything, and they become very frustrated. But the one thing you didn't give your child is quality time. You need to empower yourself as a parent so that you can empower your child. Narrow the gap between you and your children. Until and unless we don't do that, we as parents should stop blaming anybody else. The merchants are only coming in here because there's a market. If there's no market, the shop will close.
Absolutely.
So we need to educate and individually every home should educate themselves on how to deal with addiction. Otherwise, we're all going to be swept into this life of misery. I've seen it happen to people. Some of them are ulama. Some of them come from good homes, where, you would not expect this. And yet you find addiction is rife in those homes because the parent they live in silos. Each person is to himself. There's no family, bonding and quality time. These are some of the things that and of course, education from a young age.
And of course, awareness.
Awareness is critical.
Before we round up, I think we've got about 4 minutes to round up. Can you provide us with some solutions to this drug problem? I know you've said, we need to create this awareness, but I'm sure there must be some other solutions you can give to us.
When it comes to anything, I always talk about this COVID thing, always comes to my mind. But when you look at any type of challenge that we may have, we would all go out in our own way and make inquiries about how we can use this and how we can. Why is it that when it comes to drug addiction, we don't do that? So the only way we can move forward with this thing is, I'm saying this again, and I will always say this. We need to educate ourselves. We need to understand. We have this thing in our minds that, no, he's growing up now, he'll get over it. He'll get over. But what we don't understand with drugs like heroin, cocaine, crystal meth, and all this acid, all this heavy stuff, there's no return. There is no return. These are no return drugs. So, and we are expecting them to stop. It's not going to work. It's like a bottomless pit. So the sooner we get in and the sooner we can start working with our children, I would say to every parent, join a support group, read about the drugs in your area, understand addiction, so that it'll give you a nice wake-up call as to how important it is for me and you and everybody to start becoming proactive parents. Otherwise, this one chap, he was put into prison in one of these countries and we were going to execute him. I asked him, what can we, what do you have to say? He said, call my mother. So his mother comes and he said, but I've done all the wrong things. My mother knew it. She did nothing about it. She swept under the carpet. Mm-hmm. And my mother seems to be getting her there. I was little. I didn't know what was right and wrong. I've done all the wrong things. My mother has been covering up for me. Why don't you execute her with me?
Okay.
Because she's an adult. She let me do this thing until I got involved for murder. Mm-hmm. So parents need to play a more active and a more meaningful role in their children's lives.
Okay. In 2 minutes, you're going to answer the next question that came. How do we change ourselves as caregivers to connect with the drug user and make a difference and save your life?
Simple. We have established support groups throughout the country. All you got to do is contact us. We'll tell you where to go. Start attending support groups and educate yourself wherever it may be close to you, or zoom into the R.A.U.F program. Educate yourself. I only know 1 or 2 people have done this. Mm-hmm. Where the parent came to us, he sat for 1 year with his children. When his child was ready to go to university, we had a collective discussion and then decided the way forward. This is how the parent should be. Not just feeding your child, they're leaving. We've had a mother come to us. Son is a professional, medical professional. Hafiz al-Quran. He goes to work somewhere else, comes back full-blown drug addict. When you tell the mother, we test him and find him positive, the mother collapses.
Oh my God. Okay.
We're not expecting it, but we don't expect these things. We need to understand this is a reality. We need to educate, empower, and we have to become proactive parents.
Your message for our listeners?
I always say there's only one message. If you are a parent, Allah has given you the greatest gift Allah has given us as parents, our children. Mm-hmm. Now, how much of effort would we put into our beautiful houses, into our beautiful businesses, into our beautiful cars, and all the things that we own? But yet, when it comes to our children, we don't have the time. Give your child the time. Educate yourself so that you can educate your child. Spend quality time with your child. Understand your child. Find out who his friends are. Check who he's hanging out with. See who he's communicating on social media. Bring him closer to you. Narrow the gap between you and your child. Cultivate a relationship with your child so that your child and you can have a good communication, and you will pick up the problem long before it actually gets to you.
Brother Ebrahim Dawood, Jazakallah khair for joining me on the program and for having shared inspiration. There's a listener who sent a little message. Please have Mr. Ebrahim Dawood more often on radio to keep the community updated. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for your efforts. I want to thank all the engineers at the various radio stations for having engineered this evening. And I want to thank the listeners for having tuned in to Medical Files. Medical Files will be back with you next week, Tuesday, inshallah, at 8 o'clock. Before I leave you, I want to say to you that may you be in the care and protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Until we chat again, for myself, Faisal MJ Sulaiman, do enjoy the rest of your week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport.
Kenfield Auto. Mere Nabi pyare Nabi sunnat teri duniya di.
Sunnah a day. Always keep a smiling face.